Hey everybody, Livingston here. Today we're jumping into another fun-filled episode of the Twilight Zone. This time it's Season 3, Episode 19, The Hunt. Came out January 26, 1962. Looking forward to jumping into this one, but before we do, let's jump into last week's episode and see what you had to say about it. Ben Rositas 8068 says, wow, everyone in the Twilight Zone apparently wears the same size shoes. Well, I guess so. Yeah, I didn't really realize that until upon further inspection of the episode. And yeah, you're right. 3 people wore the shoes, but they never said if it was uncomfortable or comfortable for them. Maybe it was too big and they still wore them. As soon as that personality kicked in, it's like, who cares about what my feet feel like? I'm going to live on in somebody else's body until these shoes come off. And maybe he just didn't... want to take them off because of that reason, even if it hurt or not. Akira Kurosawa says, nice episode, wish it kept going. Yeah, it was one of those episodes where you kind of wanted to see where it was going to go. I like to think that the guy ended up doing his job and killing the bad guy at the very end, the one who took his life and took all of his hopes and dreams away from him. And yeah, that's how I like to interpret that one. Michael Alexis Stalling says it took me a few minutes to catch on also as to how he knew where everything was in the apartment, that the dead guy's spirit took control when he wore the shoes. Same here, I didn't really understand what was going on until he maybe got to the point inside the bedroom where he took the shoes off, and suddenly when he had a gun pointing at him, he was no longer the tough guy he was earlier with the shoes on. That's when it dawned on me like, oh yeah, there must be some kind of spirit or something attached to the shoes that is making him feel this way. Jonathan Stein says, you gotta feel sorry for that poor woman. She doesn't even realize that her boyfriend's dead, and now she's got to deal with his ghost possessing random men that she has to deal with. Yeah, true. I mean, you're going to have that same thing happen with this other guy, where he's going to walk into the apartment with the woman still there, dressed in a different attire, and having to do the same thing over and over again. Hopefully this time, the third time's the charm, and he gets his man. But suddenly, when you talk about what's going to happen to that girl, that's one of those, what is going to happen? And will he ever take the shoes off? What happens if you only take one shoe off? Is it like dual personality at that point where you're consistently fighting with one another who has possession of the body? I don't know. It would be very interesting to kind of see the story continue on, as Akira Kurosawa said earlier. Jack Dorsey 4850 says, The Hunt 1/26/1962, Twilight Zone episode 84 on CBS. Thanks for mentioning me. No problem, and that's exactly what we're getting ready to watch. So thanks for the segue, Jack, and let's jump into the episode and see what we're getting into.
The Twilight Zone.
Oh. Back in the West. I like these episodes. I don't think I've come across a Western so far in the Twilight Zone that I haven't liked. Open the door.
Open up in there. Got my arms full.
Could at least say, no problem, be right there.
Well, old man, what are you hollering about?
You gonna suffocate in there from lack of air one of these days. Why don't you leave the door open?
Well, I gotta keep that dog out of the house somehow.
When I go in that house, Rip goes too.
Well...
That dog saved my life.
Okay.
Don't talk about him like that when he can hear you. Rip's got feelings. You don't want him hurt.
But I'll be switched if I'm gonna start sweet-talking him.
Old woman, you tickle me sometimes. When's the last time you got yourself kissed?
Oh.
Well, the way I figure it, it was in the spring of 1924.
Well,
1924? I'm thinking it was like 18-something by the looks of everything going on in this episode.
Either you sit down and eat your supper and stop talking silly.
On the cheek.
I'll have my supper now, old woman.
I never said this to you, but we have endured over the years together.
50 years we've been married, eh? Couple together.
Well, I wouldn't have had it any other way.
Thank you, old woman. Here, Rip.
I'll feed that dog after supper.
So they're a sweet old couple.
Where's he going?
Where I'm going coon hunting.
I wish you wouldn't go hunting tonight.
Why not?
Well, 3 nights ago, I saw blood on the moon.
Or been in bed sleeping, you wouldn't have seen it.
Isn't that called the harvest moon?
A bird flew in the house and lit on your side of the bed and nearly scared me to death.
Was that an omen?
Them signs don't bother me at all.
Well, they bother me. Now, you be careful, old man.
Well, don't you worry about me, old woman. I'll be back even before midnight, more than likely.
You hope so.
Usually these evenings end with one tired old man, one battle-scarred hound dog, and one or more extremely dead raccoon. But as you may suspect, that will not be the case tonight. These hunters won't be coming home from the hill. They're headed for the backwoods of the Twilight Zone.
Well, that's not good. The Hunt. Produced by Buck Houghton. Written by Earl Hamner. Directed by Harold Schuster. This reminds me of Andy Griffith, just without the whistling. That first part where they're walking down the dirt road with the fishing poles in hand.
Smell him out there, boy. He's around here somewheres. You can get him.
You can tell they're shooting day for night. It's darkened up the scene a little bit. Saved on lighting back then. They didn't have the proper lighting. They kept the production budget down.
Rip, don't want it out your word, but there ain't no coon up there.
You sure? Oh, yeah.
Tricked you, didn't he, boy?
You get the sun again?
Rip, come back here. Rip, don't go in there.
Uh-oh. He's gonna fall in and drown, didn't he? I have a feeling.
That coon's gonna drown you, Rip.
Well,
Got him down.
there's some foreshadowing. You better hurry up.
I'm coming, Rip. Hold it.
Where'd the dog go? Typically dogs are pretty good about coming back up. Uh-oh. Yeah, I usually don't release that much air. Oh, would the raccoon drown them both? How'd they just die, you know? It's a creature from the Black Lagoon down there? Hey, we're alive. That didn't happen. I bet they're both dead.
Let's trail that coon half a night. Now let's mosey along home and see what Rachel's got for breakfast. That old woman gives us Hail Columbia, staying out all night.
Man, any more than 3 feet.
3 feet's deep enough for a dog.
According to old man Simpson, Rip ain't no ordinary dog.
Then you dig it.
That's mean. Digging their grave. I mean, they already found the bodies, I guess. Must have washed down river somewhere.
Morning, boys. Reckon them Miller boys gotten hard of hearing. What you old boys up to?
Digging your grave.
All right, don't answer me then. You're digging this hole on my land. Dig on your side of the fence.
Still ignoring you.
I say get moving. Now, boys, I ain't talking just to move the wind around. You get a move on, I'm gone. Fill your breeches full of lead.
It's just about deep enough.
It's kind of rude.
Have a little care.
It's just a dog.
Not to some folks.
What?
Why didn't you tell me you'd lost a dog? How did it happen?
It's his dog.
I don't reckon I blame you for not talking. I don't reckon I would myself. We're butting in on other folks' troubles. They're just too heartbroken to talk. That old woman's gonna have plenty of that for us.
How long's it been? Like, has it been just overnight, or has it been a few days? And
Could be the old woman still sleeping.
nope.
Morning.
Yeah, it's definitely not the next day. Can't be this fast.
All dressed up like the 4th of July. Old woman, if you're figuring on leaving me on account and I stayed out all night, you got another thing coming.
I appreciate your coming, even though he didn't belong to the church. I just never could get him to go.
But I figure he's still entitled to a Christian burial.
Now, just hold everything. Anybody's going to give Brother Simpson a burial, you'd better ask Brother Simpson how he feels about it.
You're already gone, buddy.
It was just last night.
Oh, I guess it was only a day.
I begged him not to go. I seen signs, but he went.
Rachel, there's been a misunderstanding.
Now, this is a sad one.
Miss Rachel, if you're ready, ma'am.
I get that this happens. It's life. But man, give us a happy ending sometimes with these.
Oh!
Don't take on, old woman. It's just a dream. We'll wake up in a little,
You hope.
and everything'll be like it ought to be. What you old boys got in there?
You?
What you old boys taking out of there?
Your body, bro.
Who's in that box?
And you think they would have taken a wagon or something. Yeah, they seem like such a good couple, too.
We'll find out what all this is about in a minute or two, Rip. The graveyard just over the top of the hill there.
Well, at least him and his dog went together, you know.
Now, who in the tarnation built this fence up here? Rip, we must have taken the wrong turn. I don't memorize ever seeing this fence before.
Has time passed?
Well, we're bound to come out somewhere.
Is this the afterlife? Is this St. Peter?
Well, I wasn't expecting nobody this morning.
But it seemed like I lost my way.
Well, that's what everybody says at first.
I belong to that bunch of Simpsons lives over on Wales Mountain. Never have traveled so far we couldn't see the top of Wales Mountain.
How old are you, neighbor Simpson?
Well, sir, I've been walking the earth for something like 70 years now.
Wasn't sure.
I know it's none of my business, but would you tell me what you're writing down in that book?
How'd you die?
What?
I said, how did you die?
Who claims I'm dead?
Ain't no argument about that. You wouldn't be here if you wasn't dead.
Oh,
Think back, neighbor. What did you do last night?
I went hunting.
And like a coon will, it headed for the water, and Rip didn't do nothing but go right in after him. Well, about that time I got there, and it was running out on this log, and
You jumped in, didn't come up till you woke up the next morning. I guess it's just now dawning on him.
this side of that gate there.
Well, that pasture right up there they call the Elysian Field. That takes you right to the Celestial Palace, where the old master has his headquarters.
And I take your name to be St. Peter. Proud to met up.
Just as proud to have you here, neighbor Simpson.
I always thought there was a lot of singing and dancing in heaven.
The minute you step inside that gate, you'll hear your favorite hymn. Well, don't stand out here in the cold, cold world. Come on in and reap your heavenly reward. You can't take that dog in there.
Why not?
This here is folks' heaven. There's another place we can put him, though, right up the road. Now, you just tie him to the fence there, and I'll walk him up for you a little later on.
Well, that sucks.
But I don't reckon in there is any place for me. Well, any place that's too high for looting for Rip is too fancy for me. What kind of outfit you running don't allow no dog?
Dog, maybe, but not you.
Now, what kind of heaven would it be with nothing in it but dogs?
Well, can't you visit?
Neighbor, let me make you a little proposition. Why don't you go on in the gate, and a little later on, I'll slip the dog through the fence to you.
If I go in that front gate, Rip's going in that front gate likewise. I don't want him to get the feeling that he ain't welcome.
Well-
I don't have to go inside to make up my mind. Let me ask you a practical question.
What kind of heaven is this?
Man, they don't allow no coon hunting.
Oh, you don't say.
Well, I mean, it'd be nice not to hunt. Always have food. Or just, I guess if you're dead, you don't need food. But, I don't know, it'd be nice to still eat lobster.
Just keeps on. I'd say the best thing for you to do is to sit out there and think it over. You've got all eternity to make up your mind.
Good day to you, sir.
If you change your mind, just let me know.
Much obliged.
That would be a hard decision to make. I wouldn't want to let go of my dog.
Eternity's a powerful long spell to go without a coon hunt, ain't it, Rip? Don't you go off your feet or nothing over this thing. Wonder what kind of a tea party they keep in there anyways. They'd be the ones most likely to outlaw coon hunting. Let them sit in there tooting on their harps or whatever they do for relaxation. Me and you stays together.
Forever and ever?
At least we ain't the only ones wandering around by ourselves on the Eternity Road. Howdy, son.
How's it going?
I'm looking for a Mr. Hyder Simpson and a hound dog named Rip.
Well, that's us.
Who are you?
Well, if you and Rip's all set, we might as well mosey along.
Mosey long where?
Heaven, Mr. Simpson.
Ain't gonna set foot in heaven without Rip.
Didn't get messed up with nobody in there, did you?
Oh,
Wouldn't let Rip in, so I didn't go.
so that was hell.
That'd be a hell of a place without Rip.
You ain't far wrong. That is hell. Heaven's up yonder a piece.
Well, I'll be jiggered.
You passed the test.
Always trying to get folks in there right down to the last minute. Well, they was afeard Rip would have warned you. And he would have. Time he got a whiff of that brimstone, a man, well, he'll walk right into hell with both eyes open. But even the devil can't fool a dog. No, I'm just a regular angel here.
Oh,
Where's your wings, son?
Shucks, I don't use them half the time. You about ready to go, Mr. Simpson?
sure am. Yeah, I was gonna say, heaven's no place to be if they won't allow dogs. So screw that place.
There's one tonight right after the square dance. Want to come along?
Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Welcome to heaven, Mr. Simpson.
Where's the pearly gates?
Right proud to be here.
Hopefully your wife ain't too far along.
That's my old woman. She won't have any trouble getting past that fella up the road, will she?
Oh, not her. And she'll be along directly, too, I'm told.
Oh, good. Glad she's gonna die soon.
Travelers to unknown regions would be well advised to take along the family dog. He could just save you from entering the wrong gate. At least it happened that way once, in a mountainous area of the Twilight Zone.
Well, I guess it was a happy ending in a way. Well, that was episode 19, The Hunt. I enjoyed that episode. I knew what was going to happen at the very beginning of it, just because there was a lot of things that were dropped during the beginning of the episode, stating like there are omens coming, that, you know, you will die, I think, at some point. She just said that something bad might happen. Then you had Rod Serling basically saying that he ain't coming back from this trip, which from the very beginning basically insinuated he wasn't going to make it. And of course I was very sad to see that the wife, the old woman as he would put it, was grieving the loss of her husband, and that she was having a hard time with it, and basically was going back in her mind of when they last spoke to one another and talking to her preacher about it. So yeah, I mean, that was very sad, and that whole portion of it, of her having to deal with the death of somebody, especially her husband that she's been with for over 50 years, it's just, yeah, I mean, death is never easy, no matter how many times you might want to go through it. It's just always a hard thing to go through. I mean, and in this episode, it was cool to see that we got to see a happy ending, and he ended up making the right choice and not leaving his dog and actually making his way to heaven, bypassing hell on the way. But yeah, very enjoyable episode. One of those episodes where it's about life and death, and there seems to be a lot of those scattered throughout these episodes of the Twilight Zone. Let me know, comment below what you thought of this episode, and I will read your comments in next week's episode. Let's jump into some trivia and see what it took to get this episode off the ground. The dog Rip is a blue tick coon hound. The cabin in the show is the same one the Beverly Hillbillies lived in 1962. Hyder says that he is just over 70 years old. However, Arthur Hinnicutt was only 51 at the time this was filmed, and Jeanette Nolan was 50. The dog named Rip is an obvious allusion to Rest in Peace. Didn't really put it together until that trivial question. The writer of this episode, Earl Hamner Jr., would go on to create the long-running drama The Waltons, 1972. The way Hyder and Rachel address each other as old man and old woman is a precursor to the cantankerous banter between Grandpa and Grandma Walton, who also addressed each other as such. Guest star Jeanette Nolan would later appear in the Calling 1978 episode of The Waltons, the iconic series created by the Hunt writer Earl Hamner Jr. Robert Fulk the Gatekeeper appeared in Rebel Without a Cause 1955, starring James Dean, who played the Gatekeeper in an earlier TV production of the story. Jeanette Nolan would return in The Twilight Zone in Jess Bell 1963, and would also guest twice on the latter-day Rod Serling series Night Gallery, appearing in The Housekeeper segment of The Dead Man 1970, and Aunt Ada, a segment of Since Aunt Ada Came to Stay, with apologies to Mr. Hyde. The Flip Side of Satan, as a long title name. Both Orville Sherman and Titus Mode, who played the Miller brothers, died of prostate cancer. Well, that's it for this episode. Let me know, comment below what you thought of it, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Continue on this voyage to episode 156 of The Twilight Zone. Until next time, see you later.